Jason Hennessy Senior, a name now infamous in Dublin's underworld, was once just a regular worker with no notable history with the Gardaí. But over the years, his life took a dark turn, placing him at the heart of one of Ireland's most volatile gang feuds. The story of Hennessy's rise, his brutal methods, and his ultimate downfall is a tale of ambition, greed, and violence. A cautionary reminder of the unforgiving world of organized crime in Ireland. As Hennessy's criminal empire grew, so did his notoriety. From his early days as an unknown figure, he transformed into a central player in the Blanchardstown area, commanding respect and fear in equal measure. But his life of crime culminated in a tragic end when, on Christmas Eve, he was shot dead in a Dublin steakhouse, leaving a power vacuum in his wake that threatens to spiral the local gang scene into further chaos. From ordinary worker to crime boss, the unexpected path of Jason Hennessy. Jason Hennessy's early years were unremarkable. Originally from Finglas, he worked in a breakdown recovery business and held an interest in boxing, though he was not particularly skilled. Known to his family and friends, Hennessy's life was far removed from the underworld until his entry into the criminal scene in the late 2010s. As Dublin's gang feuds escalated, including high-profile disputes like the Hutch-Kinahan conflict and others in West Dublin, the opportunity for smaller players to gain power widened. Hennessy seized this moment, using his newfound connections and the chaos of competing gangs to carve out his position in Blanchardstown. However, unlike the more organized gangs, Hennessy's operation lacked sophistication and relied heavily on intimidation and brute force. A feud-fueled rise to power, tensions between Finglas and Blanchardstown. By 2018, Dublin had become a battleground for feuding gangs, with Hennessy at the center of a rivalry between groups from Finglas and Blanchardstown. The violence was rampant. Shootings near schools, stabbings, and even machete attacks marked the brutal nature of the feud. Gardaí linked more than 70 violent incidents to this conflict, from petrol bombings to brazen daylight assaults. For Hennessy, this ongoing feud provided the perfect environment to expand his influence, particularly as other crime figures either went underground or were detained by authorities. Hennessy was ruthless in his approach, not hesitating to unleash violence on anyone who opposed him or owed him money. His lack of formal experience in organized crime was no barrier. His approach was straightforward and brutal, and he quickly earned a reputation as a bully, feared by those around him. A calculated move, exploiting the power vacuum. Key events, including the murder of local drug dealer Eric Fowler in 2018, catapulted Hennessy into a more significant position. With other gang members distracted or removed from the streets, Hennessy and his group were able to move in, filling a gap left by more experienced criminals. The Gardaí's attention on major gangs opened doors for Hennessy, who took control of a portion of the drug trade. As his influence grew, he attracted a small but loyal group of followers, later dubbed the Blanchardstown Boys. Yet despite his newfound power, his operations lacked the finesse of Dublin's larger gangs. Instead, he relied on violence and intimidation, which would ultimately prove to be his undoing. A chaotic rule, violence as a means of control. Hennessy's grip on the local drug market relied heavily on fear tactics. Unlike other crime bosses who used a structured network, Hennessy maintained control through intimidation. Garda sources report that he would personally dole out beatings to those who failed to pay their debts, a practice that further cemented his reputation as a fearsome and volatile figure. In response, the Gardaí initiated numerous raids, bringing armed units into Blanchardstown and Finglas to counter the escalating violence. Known as the Community Action Team, Gardaí ramped up efforts to curtail gang activity, targeting Hennessy's operations with increased searches and armed patrols. From weapons to cash and drugs, multiple raids yielded evidence of Hennessy's expanding influence. The infamous Hulk funeral and tensions boiling over. In December 2022, the conflict surrounding Hennessy reached a tragic peak. Hennessy was shot and killed in a crowded steakhouse on Christmas Eve by Tristan Sherry, a known associate from a rival faction. His death shocked the community, and his family organized an elaborate, Hulk-themed funeral to honor the man they called Boss Man. A green coffin and large trucks were brought in, drawing hundreds of friends and family members to mourn the loss. However, even in his death, Hennessy's presence stirred fear. During the funeral, the Gardaí deployed multiple armed units and public order officers to patrol the area, anticipating possible outbreaks of violence. Hennessy's death left a significant power vacuum in Blanchardstown, prompting fears of a retaliatory bloodbath. Rival gangs saw his territory as prime real estate, and with no clear successor, it was only a matter of time before someone attempted to seize control. Christmas Eve, a night of betrayal and violence. The events of Christmas Eve marked the ultimate betrayal. Sherry, a gunman with a long-standing vendetta against Hennessy, allegedly opened fire in a crowded restaurant, ending Hennessy's reign. Just months earlier, Sherry had reportedly tried to kill a member of Hennessy's family, igniting a feud that reached a deadly climax in the restaurant that night. Hennessy's murder was no random act. It was a calculated move that underscored the volatility of Ireland's gangland. Sherry was later apprehended and now faces trial, along with 2 other suspects, for the alleged murder. Meanwhile, Dublin braces for a potential wave of retaliatory violence as rival factions position themselves to take over the vacant territory. The Blanchardstown Boys, a fragmented legacy. Hennessy's gang, the Blanchardstown Boys, struggled to maintain their hold on the area following his death. Sources close to the gang revealed doubts that his followers could sustain the level of control he had established. Lacking both the leadership skills and raw intimidation that Hennessy wielded, the gang faces a precarious future, vulnerable to outside rivals and internal fractures. With Hennessy gone, other gangs have quickly moved to stake their claim. For the Blanchardstown Boys, the challenges of sustaining operations amidst Dublin's gang feuds threaten their survival. And without Hennessy's guiding hand, the group may dissolve altogether. Unfinished business, Gardaí close in on Hennessy's finances. Even before his death, Gardaí had been tightening the net around Hennessy's finances. Drug dealing may be lucrative, but hiding illicit earnings presents a constant challenge. Hennessy had been charged with money laundering, and he was due to appear in court for these charges. Authorities targeted his assets, monitoring his financial activities, and investigating associates to expose his illegal earnings. Gardaí were well aware that Hennessy's lifestyle was being funded by his involvement in the drug trade, and his inability to cover his tracks ultimately led to legal troubles. These efforts to trace Hennessy's financial trail remain ongoing, with authorities determined to dismantle what remains of his drug network. As Garda investigations continue, the impact of Hennessy's reign is being uncovered bit by bit, shining a light on the extensive network he maintained. The rise and fall, lessons from Hennessy's legacy. Hennessy's journey from a modest background to an infamous crime boss is a stark reminder of how quickly individuals can become entangled in Dublin's gang wars. His rise was rapid, fueled by a willingness to use violence as his primary tool. Yet his lack of experience and ruthless tactics left him isolated, with few allies to protect him when he needed them most. Dublin's gangland scene remains fraught with tension, and the void left by Hennessy's death serves as both an opportunity and a warning. Rival gangs are circling, each hoping to claim control of Blanchardstown's lucrative territories. However, as seen in Hennessy's story, the price of power in this world is often paid in blood. A city on edge. What lies ahead for Blanchardstown? With Hennessy's death, Blanchardstown stands on the brink of a gangland power struggle that could spill into the wider community. Gardaí are on high alert, aware that rivals may exploit this moment of instability. For the residents of Dublin, Hennessy's story is a sobering reminder of the destructive power of gang influence and the toll it takes on communities caught in the crossfire. As Ireland grapples with the legacy of Jason Hennessy, questions remain about how the cycle of violence can be broken. Stronger interventions, community support, and initiatives to divert youth away from gang involvement are more critical than ever. For more in-depth looks at the world of organized crime and its impact on communities, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. Until next time, stay safe and vigilant.